Anyway, case 31, Ummon's freestanding pillar. This is another one of these koans. It's going to sound very convoluted, but it's really much more straightforward than it sounds. So, bear with me. Preface to the assembly. The sole function of the ultimate, a crane soars in the firmament. The sole path of the evident, the falcon's already past Korea. Your eye may be a shooting star, still your mouth resembles a bent down carrying pole. Tell me, what sort of Zen point is this? In case. Attention. Ummon addressed the assembly. The old Buddha and the freestanding pillar are mingled together. What level of activity is this? The assembly said nothing. So Ummon himself answered, in the south mountain clouds rise. In the north mountain, rain falls. Appreciatory verse. The one way of divine light it's never been concealed. Transcending relative views, it's affirmed without affirmation. Going beyond common sense thought, it's adequate without adequacy. The pollen of cliff flower, hives of bees become honey. The nutrients of wild grasses, musk deer make their scent. According with kind, 3 feet or 16 feet. Whatever you touch is brilliantly magnificent. So, bless you, whoever that was. Morning, David. How are you?
Morning.
Morning. Good. So how are we this freestanding pillar, since we are not separate from either the Buddha or the freestanding pillar? So interesting that it's described as a freestanding pillar, meaning that there's nothing, it's not supporting anything. It's just standing on its own. What purpose does it stand? What purpose does it serve? To be freestanding. So, how do we relate to that? How are we that? How are we not separate from that? So several of these analogies, but I think it really points to what happens naturally. So bees run around and get pollen and take it back to the hive, and they make honey, which they don't eat. I don't know that they intentionally make it as a gift for bears and humans, but it's just, it is the byproduct of what they do, but they just naturally do it. But there's no other, other than the fact that it's part of their nature, there's no other benefit to them. The nutrients of wild grasses, musk deer make their scent, because that's just something that naturally happens with deers. So there's just being who you are and what you are, your true nature, and everything around you is perfect, just as it is. Whatever you touch is brilliantly magnificent. But often we miss that. Because we're so busy looking for something better or bigger or more exciting, and we don't pay attention to right where we're standing.
Or there's something wrong.
Or there's something wrong.
We're
in our critical, we're in our critical mind. I'm not good enough. We're not good enough. We need to be different, better, greater.
Must be something wrong with this.
Yeah. But it isn't. Those are all stories that we tell ourselves. But even if we've accomplished this, this level of enlightenment in which we feel, all like we're all that, how do we relate to the rest of the world, to nature itself? to all the people around us, because we're not separate from that either. The and nature itself is this amazing thing, and it's interesting that Ummon pronounces this koan. The old Buddha and the freestanding pillar are mingled together. What level activity is this? And then he gives the answer. In the South Mountain, clouds rise. In the North Mountain, rain falls. There's nothing special about North and South. You could say in the South Mountain, rain falls. In the North Mountain, clouds rise. It's just a natural occurrence of what happens in nature. Clouds rise. As today, June bloom, as they would call it. The clouds, it was cloudy and it looked almost like rain clouds. I thought, are we going to have a little bit of precipitation today? But it's so common for us that we have a name for it. We expect it, but we miss the true magnificence of it, the true magnificence of ourselves. Just our bodies do amazing things without us having to think about it. We don't have to tell ourselves to breathe or to digest our food or to we'd like to be able to tell ourselves to not think, but our brain does what it naturally does, and that it thinks. It comes up with ideas and gets us out. We open our eyes and we can see, unless we're blind. But if you're blind, you have other senses that come into play. So all of this is already there. All of these relationships are already there. How do we use them? How do we relate to them? How do we recognize them? How do we treat them? Are we constantly putting them down and criticizing them and wanting other, better, more, rather than really recognizing how extremely amazing it is as we are right here, right now, where we stand. We are this freestanding pillar, and our truth is right where we stand. Our purpose is just in us standing here, just in being here just as we are. We don't have to, have some glorious, assignment to make us anything that's of value. And just like we don't have to do it, neither does anybody else. Everybody out there has this intrinsic value. There's no, and there's this kind of dichotomy that comes up because we talk about things not having intrinsic meaning. Meaning it's not, there's no meaning in anything that it is born with. All the meaning that things have is something that we apply to it. And it's always after the fact. So we get to decide what things mean. But everything has intrinsic value. So value, the synonym I use for value in this case is impact. So everything that's in nature, in reality, has an impact on everything else, and has since the beginning of time. From the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago to today, as everything that's happened in that Big Bang has brought us to where we are today. It is what we are made up of. So nothing was missed. And who knows if that theory will stand? It seems to be challenged right now, but even if you have a different theory of the beginning of the universe, however it began, or however it is never had a beginning, it's still everything that has come before is culminating in each of us right here, right now. And everything that we are impacts everything that will happen in the future. So we are, at the same time, this cause and effect. And brilliantly magnificent. Brilliantly magnificent. Just being here. But more importantly, how do we experience this non-separation? How do we experience the clouds rising in the South Mountain and the rain falling in the North Mountain? The June bloom of Seal Beach, the everydayness of our lives, because everything we touch, nothing's left out. Everything we touch is brilliantly magnificent. Nothing to add, nothing to take away. We try to decorate it. We try to make it something else or try to make it special. But in its non-specialness, it's doing its job. We're doing our job. That's the level of activity. That's the just being, and being present and aware and not separate from everything around us. Even something as simple as the air that we breathe, just sitting and taking a breath. Brilliantly magnificent. Brilliantly. So it's kind of a nice, nice way to really consider life, to really slow down, sit down, be quiet, and just experience life just as it is, with nothing else on top of it. To be this freestanding pillar right where we are. And there is no place to hide. Everything is just as it is. When we just experience that and let go of our ideas of what it should be, it's like, oh, it was supposed to be 75 degrees today. What's with this?
Hurry up, run on.
I know. And then, of course, if it's 77 degrees, that's just too hot.
What is it they say? How come winter is never on time? It's either too early or too late.
Yeah.
It's late winter, early winter.
Winter got here when winter wanted to be here. So it is, despite how really convoluted, he gets with this, it is very simple. It is very straightforward. That we are this immediate experience of right here, right now. I'm not separate from the zafu, the zabuton, I don't know if it's real hardwood, it's probably laminate floor, sitting in this very nice room and near the beach, Seal Beach. This is what I am, not separate from that. Not separate from the it was the motorcycle that drove by a few seconds ago, the sounds that are happening. We are all made up of those things and not separate from them. Not separate from the quiet. Mm-hmm.
So do you think that the freestanding pillar, it's freestanding so it doesn't support anything, which we're used to seeing pillars support things like this pillar here. And the point of that is, we don't have this thing that supports to give it value. It has value just as it is without supporting anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are many things in our life that don't necessarily support us. They just are.
Yeah.
And that those things are freestanding, but also magnificent as they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and is a freestanding pillar, even though it does not appear to be supporting anything, does it not serve a purpose? Even if it's just a reminder, even if we are, sometimes we have to be that freestanding pillar. You have to be that lone voice crying in the wilderness for the legion number of injustices that are going on, and sometimes that can feel pretty lonely. But we stand in our truth. We stand in what it is we believe to be true, what it is we believe to save sentient beings, to stop suffering, and that can be pretty unsupported, at times. So certainly we feel that, and we sometimes give it meaning, but it's okay, just as it is. Just as the pillar is, just as we are. And it is not separate from the environment in which that is happening. And we're taking care of that environment just as it is. So sometimes that environment is something that needs to change from its current state. So it's not about resignation. It is about actively engaging with the environment that we have, whether we are supported or not, or whether we're supporting or not, just as we are. And it is just as it is, and it is brilliantly magnificent just as it is. So, and it's only in that acceptance of it that we can then take care of it as it needs to be taken care of. Because if we go into a situation with an agenda, we've already decided before we got there what that is. So the gift of this practice, of just taking this moment, taking this backward step and sitting with it and really absorbing it and being it, recognizing that it is not separate from us, taking responsibility and ownership of it, is the space in which we can know how to take care of it. Deciding ahead of time that, that pillar over there is all wrong, and that pillar over there is all right, and I'm going to support this pillar and not that pillar, without, really taking all of that in and saying we're not separate from any of it and responsible for all of it. Overwhelming, that could seem, but it's just as simple as being in the room, just as simple as being present with things just as they are, just as simple as sitting on this cushion, breathing this air, watching the sun kind of work its way through the clouds. Just being that. That is also equally as brilliantly magnificent. And a gift. We have this short time, 70, 80, 90 years, which in cosmic in cosmic time frame is nothing. Because the universe has been here for billions of years and will continue for billions of years, whether we're here or not. So the purpose is to just remind ourselves how not separate we are, how really connected, how interconnected we are to everything, just as it is. And nature is just as it is. The sole function of the ultimate, a crane soars in the firmament. That's what a crane does. And those are some big birds. It wasn't until I flew, I think it was the first time I went to Hawaii? A friend of mine invited me down to Hawaii for the weekend and paid for my ticket. So I took the red eye. So I basically flew all night and slept on the plane. They picked me up in the middle of the night. And so I didn't really see anything, until they put, they went to their guest room and I slept. And then they got up, the next morning I got up and they went to work, but they were going to come back later. They were going to go sightseeing. But in the meantime, I went out into their backyard and it looked like just a normal middle-class backyard with the St. Augustine grass and the wood fence and all of that. Then suddenly, this huge white bird just swooped in and landed delicately on this fence. And I went, I am not in Kansas anymore. What? I had never seen. Here we have pigeons and sparrows. Nothing that's that size. You see the bird looked at me and I looked at him and I went, You're big. And he or she flew off. And it was just this interesting experience to suddenly be jarred into I'm someplace other than where I normally am. And even though all the other surroundings look the same. But yeah, it was a chance. That was my introduction to Hawaii. And so that was, brilliantly magnificent in that sense. But things may not be what you expect them to be. They might look the same on the surface, and then they surprise you. If you're just sitting there and just letting it happen, which, purely accidentally, I was just sitting there, and this crane visited. So yeah, it's my mantra for the day: brilliantly magnificent. So, which is what everything is, brilliantly magnificent.
I think my mantra for the day is think of freestanding pillar.
Say again, I'm sorry?
Freestanding pillar. That resonated.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was telling, can I just
Yeah,
Please,
Talk
yes.
So, I was telling my therapist, oh my gosh, I had this really amazing realization that this is as good as it gets. And what I meant was, life is good. I can stop trying to find things to fix, find ways that I'm not good enough, right? But she was like, well, did that make you feel really sad? And she's thinking like, oh, this is as good as it gets, like a negative thing. And I'm like, no. I mean, I can not stop trying, like you said, you're still interacting with the environment, but I can stop fixing or stop criticizing myself. So the freestanding pillar just really fits with that. So
Nice.
that's my mantra.
Yeah. Yeah, not everything needs fixing, and not everything can be fixed. And sometimes we just have to be with it, and be that freestanding pillar in the midst of everything that is just as it is.
And another way, sorry, my husband's a carpenter, so another way to think of it would be non-weight bearing pillar.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
it's not just decorative, it just is. It's not, holding up the ceiling.
Yeah. Don't want to knock those down.
Yeah, exactly.
Without, because there are consequences. That karma is always in play.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I suspect that's a weight bearing wall.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's on the outside, so there would be consequences to knocking down those pillars.
Let's find out.
Well, I like that, it was a really hard week at work, and I was thinking about, in the middle of it, so it's not just like when we get time to sit down and reflect and, let things sort of kind of reflect on back on what had happened, but also in the middle of it, I reminded myself of just, wait, this is beautiful that we're doing this. We're working hard, we're getting this done, we're doing this thing. It's terrible. I may not make the deadline, on and on. And it's like, it's what's going on right now. It's wonderful in itself. And I also realize, I'm not going to do this forever. So I will look back on this time and think about, because we were up till like 9 o'clock, on Thursday night, getting something filed by midnight. And my co-defendants missed the deadline by like 16 minutes.
Oh no.
So I know this particular judge does not play at all. So anyways, that's another story. But I would hopefully never get that close to a deadline. But still, at 9 o'clock, the secretary and I were working, and it was just like, I'm tired, exhausted. This is, not what I had in mind tonight, but it's beautiful as it is.
Yeah. We get to do this. It's not that we have to, but we have the opportunity to use our various talents and knowledge to make a difference in the world, or just to be there doing nothing, just as we are, just standing there. Yeah, it's interesting that Shishin throws in the middle of this the crucifixion of Christ. It took me a minute, and I realized, and I wrote in my head, resistance, because I realized that I have a rather traumatic history with Christianity, and I'm like, okay, let me let that go, and see if I can connect what he's saying. But basically, I mean, when you think about it, because he's talking about when Jesus mingles with the freestanding cross, what level of activity is this?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what the words were?
Yeah.
I missed it. Okay.
Yeah, well, in this, he's adding that to his explanation for the koan, and I had to kind of stop and think about that, because I mean, certainly crucifixion was a common form of torture, by the Romans at that time. So, seeing people crucified was kind of an everyday event, because the crosses would line. But the Christians give a special meaning to that particular event with this particular person. But as in and of itself, interesting that the man himself hanging on this cross, what is that? What is his relationship with this cross? Certainly there's a lot of meaning that gets added to that, and very significant meaning for a lot of people. So but he basically boils it down to, that's what was happening at that time. That was the way they punished people they saw as outliers, for for whatever it is they were accused of doing, their form of punishment. But what was the man's relationship? What was Jesus' relationship with the freestanding cross? And I've never heard it questioned that way. So, if you strip away all of the meaning that gets added to that and get to the man himself, and we are not separate from that man, from that experience, what is our relationship with the freestanding cross, or freestanding pillar? And so it's a question for me, since I no longer have a relationship with that. I rebelled at 12 and never looked back. But it's an interesting question, because certainly my family, when I'm interacting with my family, from whom I am not separate, this is a very important relationship for them. How do I relate to them? How am I not separate from them? So it took me around the bend to try to work this in. I was like, wow, why is this in the middle of this? I was like, okay, let me let that go. Let me bring that in and see what's there.
I had the same reaction to seeing that.
Did you?
Yeah, but because there's nothing like that in here. You talk about Christianity in that sense.
Yeah.
And that was like, boom, Jesus, what's Jesus' relationship to the cross? But the cross is the freestanding pillar. It's just wood, just wood tied together. It doesn't have a function other than whatever we give it.
Yeah.
So, and then you have Jesus, who's the embodiment of the Spirit, and it's Christian religion, God, and the intersection of that. What is that? What do we do with that? And so that's what I got out of that was, I mean, that is the comparison.
Yeah.
It's a freestanding pillar, and what was the other thing?
And his mingle, yeah.
Yeah.
His mingling with that freestanding pillar. So yeah, it's these are, and there are all kinds of other analogies that could be plugged in here. So there's a lot here, but it's still very simple. We are the freestanding pillar. We are nature as it is, as we are sitting in it. We are who we are, and we are this natural being within nature, not separate from it, not something that really has any meaning in and of itself, other than the meaning we give it. But we do have value, so there is impact. with everything we do. So there is, and it's important to recognize that. Important to recognize the value and the impact of, you know, the crucifixion of Christ, that are, you know, anyone else who has been, you know, wrongly accused and, you know, tortured and punished for, you know, things that they were innocent of. As we are, you know, oftentimes we feel we're being persecuted, being challenged, being blamed for things that we didn't do, or for things that we did that we thought were the right thing to do. What's the old adage? No good deed goes unpunished, as they say. And now I remember, you know, back in my Kaiser days, someone would come in with some complaint, and I'd give them a break, thinking, okay, well, maybe they've learned their lesson, and sent them on their way and said, don't ever do it again. And a week later, they're back. And I went, okay. I gave you a break once, can't do it again. But we want to think the best of things, for the most part. I think it's healthier to try to think of the best of things. But best and worst, those are additional. Things are just as they are. And there seems to be, and maybe I'm wrong, I want to believe that there is this balance in the universe. And there seems to be this equal and opposite action and reaction going on with everything. So maybe there is just as much so-called good as there is so-called bad in the world, and that works out in the balance. We don't hear about the good because, you know, if it's good news, it's not in the news because no one talks about the good news. We only hear the bad news. But maybe that's just a biased perspective. It's not all bad. And when I'm sitting, you know, in my loft, and there's really nothing going on, and I just get a chance just to be for a minute or 5, then it's all just what it is. Mm-hmm. It's this very interesting, you know, non-meaning event that's happening right there, and letting myself be present in that without, you know, some talking head telling me what it's supposed to be and what the meaning is, and, you know, not adding all that meaning to it. If you're just sitting there not adding stuff, what is it? And what is your relationship with it, with this non-meaning stuff? But all impactful, but no meaning.
I keep thinking, and I was not raised Christian, but anytime you hear you talk about Jesus, it's, in our society, it's meaningful, you know, and so I keep thinking about that. And I also, it just strikes me about the pain, the pain of the physical pain and agony that he was going through, and how he was also one with that pain. And, you know, when we meditate, you know, we're one with all of the sensations, good or bad, including the pain. I don't know how to, I don't really know what that means, but to me that was significant. That he was not only one with the freestanding cross, but the pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's sort of, you know, is there good and bad? You know, they're just being. So things that we think are good, the next day they turn out to be bad. We thought were bad, turn out the next day to be good. I mean, so what you were saying about just being with all of it as it is, without the labels, that seems to me that's, you know, kind of where it is.
Yeah.
Because who's to say what's good and bad? And it changes.
It does, yeah. And we all say what's good and bad. We all make those judgments. We all know what we are attracted to and what we are averse to. And that's where the suffering is. That's what causes the suffering, and recognizing that. And so, and that's, you know, it's kind of the, you know, the hard part of that poem. The great way is not difficult, which is kind of where I thought, oh, not difficult. So how is this person going to tell me that this is not difficult? And his next line is, For those who avoid picking and choosing. I'm like, there it is. There's the hard part. Because try not picking and choosing for 5 minutes. See how far that gets you.
WaYu,
Yes.
if I was forced to make a choice, I'd probably take Jesus off that freestanding pillar and set the stone Buddha on top of it.
Ah, okay. That's one way. And, you know, and who is that Buddha?
Yeah, that's the question remains.
Because we're not separate from that either. So there's also a reference to, and I'll just for entertainment purposes, he talks about, where is it? About the level of accomplishment. Oh, one level of activity in Ummon, that is, he's referring to the levels or stages of development as a bodhisattva, not necessarily pertinent to, you know, penetrating into this koan, but I thought, let me look this up just to see exactly what it is. And there are 10 stages of the bodhisattva path. So just to let you know what they are. Pramadita Bhumi, which means great joy, rejoicing in the initiation of the path. That's the first stage, so it gets progressively harder from there. The second stage is Vimala Bhumi, which it means stainless, purity of moral conduct and freedom from defilements. Third stage is Prahakari Bhumi, radiating the light of wisdom. Fourth stage, forgive me, since I don't speak Sanskrit, Arsismati Bhumi, which means radiant, consuming illusions with the fire of wisdom. Fifth step is Sudra Jaya Bhumi, which means difficult to conquer, mastering deep meditation and overcoming ignorance. The sixth step is Abhimukhi Bhumi, face to face, directly confronting the nature of reality and dependent origination. Seventh stage is Durangama Bhumi, which means far-reaching, transcending time and space through skillful means. Eighth step is Akala Bhumi, which means immovable, attaining effortless, unshakable progression. Ninth stage, Sadhumati Bhumi, which means good intellect, gaining perfect discrimination and preaching power. And the 10th and last stage is Dharma Mega Bhumi, cloud of Dharma, reaching full maturity and showering blessings. So those are the stages, and we take those, and we're going to chant those 4 vows, you know, in a minute or so. Those are the stages of becoming a bodhisattva. And bodhisattva in iconography is that are those who see to everyone else's enlightenment before their own. So they're the last ones to pass over into nirvana. They're busy taking care of everybody else in that sense. All right. Questions, comments? Kurt, Christina, Dave.
It's a lovely little short story called After You, My Dear Alphonse. And the little boys just continue saying that to each other. It sounds like the dialogue of the Bodhisattva.
It does, yeah. I'll have to look that story up. It sounds very like it might be interesting.
Yeah, it's good.
Was that the title of it? After You, My Dear Alphonse?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Questions, comments, disagreements, dissensions? look up what you look at now. What's the next one?
Is,
Oh, Kyozan state of mind.
yeah.
Okay. If you're reading it, look for the trick question at the beginning.
They're all trick questions.
They're all trick questions.
By Shirley Jackson.
But I'm sorry, by
By Shirley Jackson.
Shirley Jackson. Okay, I'll look that
Has
up.
racial
Thank
over
you.
has a good commentary on racism.
Ah, okay. Well, sounds pertinent. All right. Any final thoughts before we close? All right.
It's very cute.